I'm Lloyd Holiday, and this is the Cost of a Thing podcast. Thanks for listening in today. The cost of a thing is the amount of time that you must spend working to buy the things that you want and need. And that directly determines your standard of living. And the American standard of living is what this podcast is all about. And I'm going to be discussing anything that affects that standard of living, especially those things that affect it negatively, and especially those things that have lowered our standard of living from the one that we had in America here in the 1960s, which was better than the one today. So, what was it like to grow up in the 1960s in Southern California, along the coastline in the United States of America? Well, that's one of the main things that my novel, called The Cost of a Thing, is all about. It was the time when the song California Dreamin' came out, 1966, and at that time, California really was a dream to live in. This was before the population of California doubled to more than 40 million of today. It was before there were millions of illegal aliens living in California. This was long before the house price bubbles and the rent price bubbles came to California. The 1960s was a time when the average house costs 2 or 3 times the average annual income of workers in California. As opposed to today where you're looking at 10 times, 15 times, even 20 times the average income of a California worker. And all of this making it very difficult for many Californians large percentage of Californians, to have a good standard of living, those high prices. The 1960s was a time when a regular guy doing a regular job, working at a regular job, could buy a nice home for his family and raise his family there at a reasonable price and have a good standard of living. The 1960s was a time when California had the best schools in the world, and they were about teaching the students how to think. My novel, The Cost of a Thing, was inspired by my perspective of growing up in the 1960s in Southern California. After witnessing the last 40 or 50 years since then, it was easy for me to see that a lot of things are not as good as they were back in the 1960s, and especially the standard of living. And I wrote this book to show the contrast between how it was in the 1960s versus how it is today. That was what I was trying to do with the story in the novel. And there's no doubt in my mind that the American middle class especially, and probably even the lower classes, are not doing as well today, nor have the opportunities that they had. It's just not there like it used to be. The novel is a story about Stephen Novak's family. Stephen Novak is the main central character in the novel. And in 1962, his family migrates from frozen northern Minnesota to Southern California, seeking those golden opportunities there. And his father, Frank Novak, finds those opportunities and the ideal place to raise his family in Southern California. And they enjoy a great standard of living there. But later, after Stephen grows up, he and his friends move through their adult lives in the 2000s. They find California and the American dream has become the impossible dream. The opportunities their fathers knew have long vanished, or they're vanishing. And now these young people in the 2000s are struggling against a declining standard of living, infidelity and divorce, overpriced housing, crowding, crime-ridden neighborhoods, aging, declining schools. As Stephen goes through his life and the troubles of the New California and the New America in the 2000s, the great music of the 1960s, Stephen's beloved music of the 1960s, sparks his most vivid memories and feelings, breaks him out of the troubles of his modern life to relive his childhood past with his family, his friends, his summers, and the ways of that time. These fond memories of that better time further reinforce his growing awareness of America's steady decay, driving him to find a way out of it, and that leads him into the greatest adventure of his lifetime. And that's just a brief overview of the kind of the plot, the story of the novel. It's not very detailed, but it gives an idea of what it's about, and I may go into more detail in the future. But if that sounds like something anybody's interested in out there, of course, that's the photo of the book up on the page there. The link to the Amazon book sales area, if you're more interested, go there. There's some more information over there about it. Thank you for listening in today. And until next time, this is Lloyd Holiday signing off.